Hello, this is Catherine Dubberly, the Answer Lady. I'm a big fan of Kiss Looms. I greatly enjoy mine, and I am cooperating with Kelly at Kiss Looms to make you a playlist of all the basic techniques that you might ever want to know on all of the looms. So welcome and enjoy. My 6 rows of ribbing are complete, and I'd like to take this moment to show you something. People often get very stressed out about losing count of their rows, and there is no need for that stress. Watch this. 1 stitch, 2 stitches, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we are down to the cast on. So if you lost track and had no idea how many rows, or if you just brought me your loom and said, how much have I knitted? You would start with the stitch that's on a peg, and it's making a little loop around the peg, and that's stitch number 1. And it's very easy to see in this bulky yarn on the purl side especially, because these were the purl stitches, so actually knits are facing us now, and each one makes this little shape, a little bit like a heart. 1, 2, and that one will be around in the area of the pins probably. 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's your E-wrap and knit over of the cast on. Easy peasy, so don't stress out over counting your rows. Before we continue, let's talk a little bit about sizing. The average size of an adult woman's head is about 21 inches in circumference. Sources vary and disagree on the subject, but that's what you mostly run into. The average size of a man's head measured around it is about 22 inches in circumference. There's considerable personal variation, plus the fact that people like their hats to fit differently. I, for example, really like mine to fit pretty much exactly head size. I don't like it to feel restrictive. Many people like it up to 2 inches smaller, which would mean that a 21-inch head would wear a 19-inch hat. Now this hat is only 16 inches in circumference. We know that because measured flat, it's 8 inches across, and there are 2 layers, of course, in the flat measurement. So 2 times 8 is 16. And that would fit, you would think, a youth or a big child. But because this is incredibly stretchy, it will easily fit a woman or a man. And this is very soft, so even I don't find it restrictive. I put it on earlier. However, watch, as I stretch it out to fit a bigger head, it's getting shorter. And here's what you need to know. The hat is 8 inches long, which is the length that most women and big kids would like it. Most men would like it to be 9 inches long. Again, there is considerable personal variation in the way we expect our hats to fit and what we want them to do. For example, if my husband's wearing his under a hood, he likes it tighter and smaller. So you would think, okay, the hat is nicely sized for an adult now. But because it's going to get shorter, let me lay this on it. Let's see if we can get a rough measurement. As I stretch it, see, by the time it is man-sized in width, it's only about 6.5 inches in length. So we're going to need to knit extra length if we want it to fit a real adult head. You can vary your ribbing length, as we've already talked about, but the main place that you're going to vary the length is in here, in what's going to either be plain knitting or cabled knitting in this hat. The top has some shaping that we'll get to later that takes about 2.5 inches, so we're going to leave that alone, probably leave the ribbing alone. And we only have about 3.5 inches of plain stockinette in this hat. Now, using the method I taught you, let's count up how many rows we knitted. That's the end of our ribbing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then we go to the shaping. You can see the change begin. So if you want a hat exactly like this one, Your next step is to knit 16 rows, either in plain stockinette or in the rib pattern. Cabled pattern. Now, to fit a normal-sized adult, I'm going to need to lengthen this hat by a couple of inches. How are we going to figure out what to do? Well, I've already found the row gauge, and it is 4.6 rows per inch. So I need to multiply 4.6 times 2. Let's get this out. 4.6 times 2. 9.2 rows. And what I'm really going to do is probably just add 10 rows. I think rounding up is always the better policy. So there were 16 rows in this section that would fit a smaller head, a very small adult head or a kid. But we're going to lengthen the next hat by making this 26 rows.